This is the Haitian Creole and English Contrastive Analysis project by Jessica Zambrano, Nicole Miller, and Kelly Domenico for EDC 526, Group B.
We're going to begin with the origin and history of the language. French is the official language of 29 countries. Most of these countries haven't been colonized by France. Around 270 million people speak French worldwide. Haitian Creole developed as a mixture of the French language and languages slaves brought from Niger and the Congo during the 17th and 18th centuries. The two official languages of Haiti are French and Creole, with most of the population speaking Creole. Haitian Creole began as a pidgin from a combination of languages, and as new generations learn the pidgin as their first language, it has evolved into a Creole. Although primarily French based, the grammar of Haitian Creole is very different.
Differences in French and Haitian in regional varieties. As for those Haitians who are literate, they cannot imagine being taken for speakers of French by De Jean in 1983. Haitian Creole doesn't conjugate verbs as you do in French. Many of the conjugate terms have different meanings in French and Haitian Creole. The existence of doublets, for example, words that are very different but which express commonly used notions in two varieties of the same language. For example, in English, to say men or people, French would say homme or gens, and in Creole would be mot, two very different words for the same meaning. And you can see some more examples below. In other cases, we have the Creole vocabulary items could be from the same origin as the contemporary French terms and even have the same meaning. In French, you would say la maman de petit grand, on levait les assiettes, les couteaux, les fourchettes et les verres. And in Creole, you would say maman petit garçon et tep levait assiette yo, couteau yo, fourchette yo, et cuvier yo. So you could see maman being very similar and some more words in there.
And here are some interesting facts about Haiti. Of all the countries in the Caribbean, Haiti has the most mountains. As a matter of fact, the word Haiti came from the original indigenous people, the Taino, of the island of Hispaniola. The Taino people called it Haiti, which means land of the mountain. Communication has been a part of the island since ancient times, and as you can see in the photos to the right, with these Haitian petroglyphs. There are more than 10 million people in Haiti who speak Haitian Creole. Haitian Creole does not have any silent letters. Because Haitian Creole is a contact language, it may be in danger of extinction.
Phonology. In Haitian Creole, there is some debate about how many phonemes there are. So for vowels, most agree that there are either 10 or 12 phonemes. And for consonants, most agree that there are either 16 or 20 phonemes. The number of phonemes in Haitian Creole differs due to dialectical variations. There are three main dialects: Northern, Western, and Southern, and all three are considered native Haitian Creole. Native speakers of Haitian Creole are aware of linguistic features of each dialect. They automatically identify the geographical origin of other native speakers while communicating with them. Haitian Creole is a language with fixed word stress on the last syllable of the word. For more information, to hear the phonemes pronounced aloud, we recommend that you check out the YouTube channel Learn Haitian Creole with Faye.
Morphology. Most of Creole vocabulary is derived from French. Creole has also many borrowed words from English, Spanish, and from Niger-Congo languages such as Wolof, Fon, and Ewe. Some past claims on morphology, starting with Surin in 1986, was that Haitian Creole has no morphology. Moving on to 2001 with McWhorter, believed that Haitian Creole has simple morphology, being quoted as saying, "The world's simplest grammars are Creole grammars." In 2006, Plague believed that there was a simpler inflection than their lexifier. Plague was quoted as, "Creoles are sensitive to the French alteration, but innovate their own." Today we know that Haitian Creole has an entirely different system of verb morphology consisting of fixed particles and invariable verb forms. The prepositions denoting grammatical relations. For example, a for to, de for of, and par for by in French are used quite differently in Creole. The preposition of the French determiners, for example, le, la, le, se, set, se, mon, ne, me, and more, at the beginning of the noun phrase contrasts with the postposition of the determiners in Haitian Creole, which are, moreover, very different morphologically.
Haitian syntax. The word order in Haitian is generally the same as English: subject, verb, and object. About 80% of the time, word order will change when a noun is being modified by an adjective. This is the case in French and Spanish as well, where the adjective follows a noun. For example, Casablanca, where in English this is White House. The other 20% of the time where word order differs from English is when the modifying adjective comes before the noun. So if you look below, there are some examples. The first with subject, verb, and object, the next with noun plus modifying adjective, and modifying adjective plus noun.
Semantics. There are many rules for nouns, pronouns, and verbs, some of which being for nouns. Nouns are marked for number by adding the suffix yo. Possession is expressed by placing possessor after possessed. Indefinite article precedes noun, and definite articles follow noun. Single demonstrative pronoun sa, this, that follows the noun. So, example, Yon machine means a car. Machine la means the car, and machine sa means this or that car. For pronouns, pronouns are marked for person and number. There is no difference between personal, direct, and indirect, and possessive pronouns. Some are of French origin and others are not. For example, these pronouns are not from French origin. Moi means I, me, my. U means you or your singular. Li means he, she, it, his, her, its. Nous has a French origin, which sounds very much like the French word for we and us, as nous with an S. For verbs, no subject, there is no verb subject agreement. No verb tenses. Use a system of markers which precede verb to indicate the tense. For example, I make food. Moi fais manger means I make food. Marie makes food is Marie fait manger. So you see they have the same. And for Marie and Pierre make food, Marie et Pierre fait manger. There are more examples below of past tense and male-female usage. Pragmatics. The focus on implied and infer meanings. Some Haitian Creole proverbs have very interesting little translations. Yaya is actually a type of fish, literally, but its inferred meaning is actually a type of dance. Saisi ku berejin means to be as surprised as an eggplant, which is a fun way of saying to be very surprised. There are some more examples below, but one of my favorites is nous pas manger l'argent chango, nous pas manger blier. This literally means we don't consume Chango's money. We don't eat the food of forgetfulness. Its inferred meaning actually comes from folklore. The inferred meaning is we're not taking part in corruption and we never forget. The folk tale comes from this character, Chango, who is a voodoo Iwa, known for his anger. If you take Chango's money, you have to be prepared to do something in exchange. Discourse varieties of the selected language. Haitian Creole has 3 different varieties. There's Creole Rec or Gua Creole. Creole Rec means rough Creole. Gua Creole means vulgar Creole. This is spoken and used by the uneducated monolingual majority. Primary meaning of rec refers to crops that are not yet ripe. It can also be applied to a child in the sense that they appear older than they are. It can also refer to strength or manner of speaking. Creole Française or Bon Creole. Creole Française means Frenchified Creole. Bon Creole means good Creole. This is spoken by the urban bilinguals. It can be recognized by uneducated speakers, but not spoken spontaneously. Depending on the speaker and context, what sounds good can be viewed as potentially deceptive. Creole Soie, or Smooth Creole. This is spoken by the sociolect of the bilingual minority. Schwa can be used in reference to hair, style, or manner in which something is carried out. Think suave.
Did you know in 1975 a new orthography was adapted that combined the two former systems? It uses a consistent one sound, symbol correspondence. So in 1979, the spelling system was approved by the Haitian government. Most of the Haitian language materials today are written using this orthography, which brings us to the orthography of Haitian Creole. Accents. Haitian Creole has one accent called a grave accent. It is used for three letters. A makes the same sound in English used in the word and. E makes the same sound in English used in the word get. O makes the same sound in English used in the R controlled word order. The letter A never appears by itself. It is always followed by the letter N. Orthography 101. There is one sign for each sound. There is the same sign for the same sound. There are no silent letters, and each letter has its own function. Prior to 1987, Haitian Creole was not enforced as the official language in Haiti, and unfortunately, it was not taught in schools. Most Haitians who attended school before that time are not really familiar with the new spelling system of the IPN orthography. An issue with this is that writing in Haitian Creole is that people tend to go back to the prior orthographies, such as the Fablas, Pressois, or Mekana-Labach orthography. Sometimes they may even use a combination of French and Haitian Creole spelling. The inconsistency will diminish as the younger generations learn the universal and accepted spelling orthography. Haitians in the United States. In comparison to other immigrants, Haitians are more likely to become naturalized U.S. citizens and participate in the labor force, especially in service occupations. But unfortunately, this is reflected in their household incomes, making Haitians having lower incomes. Haitians make up less than 2% of the U.S. foreign born population, though their numbers increased by 17% from 2010 to 2018. After the earthquake of 2010, the U.S. government extended temporary protected status to certain Haitians already in the United States. They were provided with temporary work authorization and relief from deportation. So more than 55,000 Haitian immigrants have been granted TPS. Most of these Haitian immigrants live in Florida and New York. Before the earthquake, they were able to establish robust communities. If we look at the table to the left, it shows how the population has grown from 1980 to 2018. The Haitian immigrant population has more than tripled in size from 1990 to 2018. In 2018, Haitians were the fourth largest foreign born group from the Caribbean and the United States.
Haitian students in U.S. schools. According to recent demographic research, approximately 2% of English language learners in the United States speak French or Haitian Creole at home. In the 2017 to 2018 school year, Mattapan Early Elementary School and Boston Public Schools opened what is thought to be the first Haitian Creole dual language program in the U.S. Students in the program will receive 70% of instruction in Haitian Creole and 30% of instruction in English. Additionally, the first cohort of students will include 15 native Haitian Creole speakers and 10 native English speakers. The program was promoted and supported by community-based organizations, particularly local churches and the Haitian Parents Association. Furthermore, the school has partnered with Dr. Michel DeGraff, professor of linguistics at MIT and director of the MIT Haiti Initiative, to provide professional development for interested BPS teachers.
The cultural norms of Haiti. In the Haitian community, you will find that they are friendly, expressive, they are very hospitable, and family oriented. They have obedience and respect for elders, and they work together. So we're going to begin with titles. The Haitian people formally address people above their station or people of consequence by title and then their last name. Within the realm of friendship, first names or nicknames are used. As a sign of respect, an older friend of the family or neighbor might be addressed as an aunt or uncle. Greetings and touching. In Haitian culture, it is typical when meeting, no matter who, to kiss on each cheek. When meeting a new acquaintance, men will mostly shake hands while women will sometimes blow kisses. The greeting you will likely hear the most is sekepe or sek pass. This means good day and how are you? Eye contact. In Haitian culture, it is common to use direct eye contact with those you are close with, but it is not acceptable to use with strangers. Gestures. Haitians use gestures to help express themselves. Though the conversations can get loud, it is not an indication of anger. These interactions can be seen daily at the market or on the street. Like in New England, when you have your hands full, you may greet a person passing by nodding your head. Hand gestures are also used when they tell stories. Cultural norms continued. Personal greetings. Greetings are very important to Haitians. When entering a room or joining a group, a person is expected to physically greet each individual. Closeness. Haitian people need much less personal space than Americans and may come close to you when speaking. Gender. In Haitian culture, males are given more privilege than females. Men are more likely to have high paid jobs, and if a decision has to be made about which child is able to do something, the male child is usually chosen. Touching. Hugging and kissing is normal between friends and during informal situations. And lastly, punctuality. The Haitian people pay more attention to the present and as a result tend to be late. However, to prevent the dismissal of punctuality, an emphasis needs to be placed on making punctuality a priority. Being unpunctual is not seen as being rude.
Classroom implications. One of the big differences between Haiti and the United States when it comes to education is schools. In Haiti, almost all schools are privately owned. Because of this, education is very inaccessible as many families cannot afford school tuition. This means that Haitian students who have recently moved to the US may be experiencing regular schooling for the first time. Students and families will need time and guidance to learn and adapt to the expectations of American schools. Furthermore, according to the Civic Freedom Organization, around 75% of schools in Haiti do not have electricity and 59% have no water. Especially with the recent reliance on technology and education, students from Haiti may require some extra instruction in operating and or utilizing technological resources for educational purposes. Family engagement. Teachers may greet parents by shaking hands, which is a typical greeting in both American and Haitian cultures. Parents in Haiti tend to really value education, especially as a means to success. Despite this, many Haitian parents have little or no formal education themselves. It might be beneficial to explain the logistics and expectations of a typical school day or year to them. Due to natural disasters in the past decades, many Haitian immigrants are refugees. Families may lack access to a car, therefore making it difficult for them to attend after school events. Communication. Haitian children are taught to value and respect their elders. Because of this, their communication with teachers may be very formal compared to peers. Speech. Haitian students may pronounce the R sound like a W or delete the sound altogether if it's at the end of a word. Pronounce the unvoiced TH as T or S. Pronounce the voiced TH as D. Omit consonants from consonant clusters at the end of words. And some common sound substitutions, the CH sound for SH, ZH or J for J, D for T, B for P. Comparing Haitian Creole to English. In both Haitian Creole and English, they share the same basic sentence structure, which is subject, verb, object. Punctuation is mostly the same in English as it is in Haitian Creole. They use the same punctuation marks and the same rules apply for usage. English and Haitian Creole share many cognates as they are both derived from French. Some examples are to the right. And additionally, English has borrowed some words from Haitian Creole, mostly related to Haitian religious rituals, for example, the words zombie or voodoo. And contrasting Haitian Creole to English. Pronouns in Haitian Creole don't change to become possessive. To show possession, place the pronoun after the noun. Gender, verbs and pronouns do not change based on gender. Verbs are not conjugated in Haitian Creole. To indicate verb tense, place the tense before the verb. For example, te indicates past tense, To say Marie got married last month, in Haitian Creole, you would say Marie te marié mois passé. Negatives, to negate any sentence, add the word pas. And capitalization. Capitalization is mostly the same as in English. The difference is that in Haitian Creole, days of the week and months are not capitalized. Lastly, plurals. If a noun uses an indefinite article, the noun remains unchanged, and the pluralization is indicated by adding the number of the noun. If the noun uses a definite article, yo is added after the noun to indicate pluralization. And to the right, you can see the Haitian Creole alphabet and the phonemes to compare to the English alphabet.
Difficulties Haitian speakers have with English and tips. Some challenges include sound omission, the h phoneme at the beginning of words. For example, I have a house is pronounced I have a house. One solution for this is to play sounded out games for students to practice phonemes and grapheme relationships. Another challenge is different consonant phonemes. The or th phoneme does not exist. It may be pronounced as s or t. For example, think is pronounced as sink or tink. Then may be pronounced as den. Some ways to solve this is to play initial sound spelling games that allow students to choose the missing initial sound to complete a word. A third challenge Haitian speakers have when learning English is forming questions. Statements transform into questions with change of intonation and the addition of question marks. In English, English typically needs an auxiliary verb such as do or have. For example, do you want to eat? In Haitian Creole, this might come out as you want to eat. One way to help solve this is with word lists with auxiliary verbs with a sentence unscrambled. Students can hear a sentence read out loud in the correct order and then arrange words in the correct order. Here is a list of the references that we used, as there are many. We hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you.